Hey, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Matthew Maley from MatthewMaley.com. Well, I wanted to do a quick poker recap video since I posted a couple of videos that I was going to be playing in the Deep Stack Extravaganza over at the Venetian. I did play in the $340 event. And for those of you who don't know, the Venetian runs a kind of like the World Series, a month worth of tournaments ranging from $340 buy-in all the way up. I think their main event's like $5,000. So they run a good range of tournaments, and what's cool about them is they actually give you a deep stack of chips plus pretty good blind rounds, at least in the beginning. So it actually comes out to $350 because you do a $10 dealer appreciation and you get an extra $2,500 in chips. So you start off with 1,250 chips, and the blind rounds start at 5,100 and they're 40 minutes. So I actually was late, which was my cardinal rule. I'm never late to a tournament. I don't pull some Phil Hellmuth or something stupid like that. I want to be there for my first hand, just in case, who knows, maybe I get aces first hand. So sadly, everybody knows I don't do well with mornings, and I was running late. Got there, and I'd missed about twice around the table. So I dropped about 300 in chips. Wasn't worried too much, because as soon as I sat down, I actually got a decent run of cards, and plus I just felt like I needed to really establish my dominance of the table and show my aggressiveness. So I pick up a couple hands, end up getting myself back up to about 1,300. Chase a hand I shouldn't have, chased a straight I shouldn't have. Ended up dropped back down to about 12, and kept going back and forth. Ended up picked up pocket deuces, and picked up pocket deuces on the button. So I put in a raise. It had been folded around to me. I put in a raise. At this point, it's 5,100. I raised to 250. I was trying to almost, by betting a little smaller, make people think I was better and stronger than I was. Maybe just get the blinds to fold. Small blind folds, big blind calls. And big blind was a very good player. So I ended up, flop came up, King 8-4, rainbow. So he checks to me. I bet about 3/4 of the pot. He calls. So that scares me, but in the same sense, I really want to, continue my aggressive standpoint, my aggressive look at this point. So turn card comes out a 7. Again, rainbow, nothing's running with that. So he again checks to me. This time I bet about 3/4 again, and again he calls. So now I know he has something. The river card comes a jack, and so there's no straight, no flush draw. I know he has to have a pair. At first, I was thinking, well, maybe he could be on some type of draw, but nothing ever came. So maybe he had an over, maybe he just had an ace, but I was figuring he bare minimum had a 4. So now the jack came. He checked to me again. This time, I'm like, this is my option. I know I'm screwed if I just check. I have to bet. So I fired that third bullet, and I got him to fold. And as he folded, he showed an 8 and mucked. So thankfully, my aggression really paid off on that. It was a really solid pot. So that got me up to almost 1,600. Kind of went back and forth a little bit. Ended up, was it about 1420 or so. And picked up pocket kings. Pocket kings in the, I believe I was, I was big blind. Because first position, first act, called. 2 other people called, got around to me. I raised, and at this point, blinds were 75, 150. And so there were a couple callers. I raised it to 600. It was an aggressive table as well. So big raises were getting called. We had people raising, 10, 15 times the big blind, just straight. It was ridiculous. So the guy who had opened up in the first place, he calls. Everybody else folds. So flop comes up, King 8, King 8-7, sorry, King 8, no, King 8-5, I'm sorry, King 8-5, and the 8 and the 5 were of diamonds, sorry, it's been a couple days, I just not running straight in my brain, but so now I've got a set of kings. I feel, I could slow play and try and trap him, but I've been playing aggressively, this guy had been playing aggressively, and he was showing that he was calling pretty much anything, so I figured it would look, suspicious and out of the ordinary if I checked and let him take the action. So I threw in a standard continuation bet, just over half the pot, and he calls. But when he calls, I put him on, I didn't put him on a pair. I thought maybe he had, a good ace or maybe, more likely, he had a flush draw, possibly with the ace. So, in my mind, I figured if a diamond didn't hit, I was golden. So, turn card comes, a jack. Alright, so no diamond, I feel pretty solid about it. I bet $13.50. Now, mind you, I'm at about 14,000 of the chips. He raises me to 3,600. And he'd only started the hand with about 10. So I push all in. As soon as he puts it in, I think about it for a couple seconds. I've got the nuts at this point. There's nothing he could have. So I push all in. He ends up calling me almost instantaneously. Turns out he has 10-9 of diamonds. So I was correct with the flush draw, but now with that jack, he also had an up and down straight draw. So I've got to fade literally like 21 or 22 cards in order to win this pot. Sure enough, a 7 hits. No diamond, but he hits the straight. So that crushed me, especially to be that far out ahead with the kings. And that crushed me. Took me down to about 4,000 in chips. But it was the biggest gut check I've had in a while. And it sucks because, as a lot of you know, because of my injury, this was the first time I'd actually played any poker on felt in 4 months. So I was really excited about getting back and, playing. And just to have that hit me, it was brutal. So, when I really thought about it, I couldn't be hard on myself because, honestly, the hand played itself. There's no way that, really, short of him not playing the 10-9, which he had already opened up, so he already had money in the pot. So, based on his aggressive style, I see calling with that. I would have called with that. So I totally understand that. And then once once he hit the diamonds on the flop, of course he's going to stick with it. Then he turns the open-ender on the turn. Of course he's going to stick with it. So really, there was nothing I could do with that hand. It really did play itself. So next thing I know, I'm down to about 4,000 in chips. And then I just catch a frozen wave of cards like you wouldn't believe. To quote everybody's favorite poker degenerate worm out of Rounders, it was absolutely horrible. I mean, it was just, I wish I would have been playing blackjack. I got more 7 4s, 8 3s, 9 2s than I could put into words. Then, once I ran through those, then I started getting, face, rag. And of course, my first card I would look at would be the face. So I'd be like, all right, match it or better, nothing. And it would be Queen 5, King Deuce, King 4. It's horrible. So I ended up having another hand where flop came up Queen Jack 10. I had Queen Jack. So that's a terrifying flop as it is, with the straight draws, especially because I didn't raise pre-flop. I was pretty small stack, so I wanted to try and get my money in cheap pre-flop. If I hit, I could then push, I know, depending on who you listen to, specifically Dan Harrington, he says don't play those type of suited connectors or two face cards. When your M gets that low, you should be looking for an ace and push. But I was trying to vary my play a little bit. So, ended up, I made a bet on the flop. I kind of had to. He called. So, turn was really what killed me. An 8 came up. So, now I'm like, anybody has a 9, I'm pretty much dead. So I check on the turn, he checks on the turn. And mind you, this was the same guy that I lost the huge pot with the kings to. So river card comes out, I check again. It was a blank, so there's still 4 to the straight on board. I was praying it would be a queen or a jack, but I ended up checking to him. He bets 1,000. And at this point, the blinds were 100, 200. So it was a pretty decent sized pot. It was probably about a $3,500 pot. So I was getting, 3.5 to 1 on my money to try and, see where I was at. So I thought about it for a little while, and even though I was a little on chips, by this time, I actually had built back up just by making a couple good all-in moves. I built back up to about 5,500. So I ended up calling, and sure enough, he had 10-9 again. And, of course, he called the flop bet because he did have the up and down straight draw, plus he had a pair of 10s. So I don't fault him for that. I think it was a good play. And ended up, that really hurt me. Took me back down to right about 445. And really, like I said, I could not get any traction. And it was just a brutal tournament. But in the same sense, it felt great to be back there. Finally, I had ace-jack on one hand. I was under the gun. I made it 600. Blinds were 1, 2 with a $25 ante, or $50 ante at this point, I'm sorry. My stack was at about 38.5. So I made it I put 600 in with ace jack suited. Very next person next to me, he pushes to 2200. So pretty much, put me to a decision for all my chips. I ended up deciding that it's not, I felt like I was dominated. I really felt like I was dominated. Turns out he had ace king. So I'm glad I didn't push with it. Really would have been, a pretty ugly, conclusion. So I ended up letting that go. He even said, I'm really surprised you let that go. I just had a feeling that I wasn't in a good spot. Had another time with ace 8. A guy pushed, made it 1200. At this point, I was right at 32. And I thought about it for a while, to the point that I almost called the clock on myself. I had ace 8 suited, which a lot of you know I love ace 8. That's one of my favorite hands. But I just had a feeling that I was bested. Besides, this guy had been running stupid good. So I ended up letting that go and told him, I had ace 8. And he's like, wow, I'm, amazed you were able to push that down, get rid of it when you had so few chips. And he ended up showing ace king. So I was feeling pretty good about my play. Went all in a couple times. It was like I'd go all in, and then I'd have to wait 10 hands before I even got anything to play. And then by that time, I'd have to go all in again. And it was just like, I would go all in, make 600, lose that 600. Go all in, make 600, lose that 600. So it was really difficult. But I ended up finally catching ace deuce, and I was under the gun. So I'm figuring, now at this point, I was at 28.50 in chips. Blinds were 5 minutes away from going up. Oh, no, I'm sorry, they just had gone up. And I was next hand, I was going to be blinds. Blinds had gone up to 241. So I knew I was going to be all in and blind the next hand. So I figured, now I got an ace, I might as well push with it. So I had ace deuce off, gets folded around to seat 5, who ends up re-raising all in. That then goes around to, seat 5 called me. Seat 8 re-raised all in for about 7,000. Goes back around to seat 5. He ends up calling. He had about 10,000 in chips, so he had both of us covered. Turns out I have my ace deuce offsuit. Seat 5 had pocket 10s, both black 10s. Seat 8 had ace king offsuit, so I'm drawing for nothing but the wheel, really. Wheel or some quack quack. So flop right in the window, 10 ball. It was done, Dude has a set. Gave me a little bit of a sweat. I actually had a little bit of a sweat. Turn card, I needed runner for a straight, and I hit one of them. The flop came a 10-3 blank, and then turn card came a 4. So I needed that 5 ball, didn't hit, and I ended up getting knocked out in about 180th place. But it was still a good tournament. There was 340 people to start off, so I'm kind of happy with it. I would have liked to have lasted longer. I played for about 4.5 hours, and it wasn't a horrible performance. So I felt good to get back into it. I'm back on my poker. This is going to be my year, I'm telling you. So once again, like I said, wanted to just do a quick recap. So here you go. My recap for the Venetian Deep Stack Extravaganza, event number 2. $350 no limit tournament, and well, there you go. So thanks again, everybody, for checking out my videos. I really appreciate the support. I mentioned MatthewMailey.com to a lot of people out in Vegas, so hopefully we'll be getting some more viewers. And if any of you guys are new viewers, what's up? I appreciate it. And until my next video, thanks again for the support. Hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, MatthewMailey.com. I'm out. Peace.